So, hi, welcome to the next episode of Leading Talks. I'm really, really excited to be talking to our next guest, Marta Shokalo. And she is someone that I met when I was wearing my TV host hat. And she came along and we had a conversation about her areas of expertise. She's with the BBC. She's been with them for over 21 years now. And she is the editor-in-chief of BBC Ukraine, and she was posted in that position in September 2019. So I thought the experience that she's had with the organization, the growth, and you'll hear how she started in just a second, but the place where she started with the organization where she is today, I mean, the number of lessons that Marta must have absorbed in that time are, fantastic, and I wanted to share that with all of my audience and to learn from her as well. So I'll be quiet before I start talking non-stop, as I have a tendency to do, and introduce my wonderful guest, Marta Shokalo. Marta, welcome.
Thank you, Ashim. Thank you for inviting me and thank you for having me. And I'd be delighted to share with you everything that I have.
I'm really looking forward to it because, we talked a little bit about it and you told me a little bit about your journey. And I thought, well, okay, I must ask her more about this and I must ask her more about that. So hopefully we'll get the chance to do that. So let's start at the beginning. Okay, so you told me you went off to London, you were 21 years ago, and you had a dream. What was that dream?
My dream, first of all, I had a dream when I was very little. There was still Soviet Union. I went to school and I was about 6 or 7 years old. I started studying English, and my biggest dream ever was to go to London. So then my dream came true when I was 20, and I ended up actually living there at some point. And when I was going there, I remember saying to people, I go to London to work for BBC, and that was completely a lie at the time because I was nowhere near BBC. But in 3 months' time, I actually started to work for BBC because that was my dream since I became a journalist, very young journalist working for Ukrainian news agency. But that was my something the biggest I can think of, and it happened.
Right. I mean, this is what I find so fascinating because so many of us have dreams, but there's a difference between something being a dream and then something manifesting, right? And in your case, it actually manifested, right? You went from being a reporter in Ukraine, a journalist in Ukraine, to the UK. You had no connections with the BBC, but you knew that that's where you wanted to be, and you got there. Well, can you remember and share with us what that process was? How did you make it happen?
So I had one phone number for the lady who worked for BBC. She doesn't work for BBC, but at that time she was very famous Ukrainian writer, and I always wanted to interview her. And the interview, so that's why I got her number. But the interview never happened. I ended up living in London, and I was so lonely and I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a job, and I was really sort of not depressed, but I was quite sad, and I couldn't, because I'm very active, so I need to do something. So I thought, what can happen? What is the worst that can happen actually? If I ring her and say, I want to work for BBC, that's what I did. So I went to the phone booth. At that time, we didn't have mobiles at that time. I dialed her number. She answered the phone, and I said, hello, Svetlana. I'm Marta Shokalo. I know you, but you don't know me, but I want to work for BBC. That was literally my line. And she was then she told me later, I was so surprised and amazed by your sort of directness. that she thought, well, there is no way I don't invite this girl to BBC. So she invited me to BBC office. At that time, BBC World Service was based in Bush House in London, and I met her at that time boss, and he said, oh, okay, you can start to work with us as a trainee. There was that kind of option. And I ended up doing radio, which I never ever did in my life. And I remember when I entered newsroom, and at that time we still had this tape recorders and razors. So when I looked at that, I was absolutely terrified, like, oh my God, what I'm gonna do. But then it took me like months maybe to learn the basics. I was journalist already, so I could write, so that helped me. And that's how I ended up being part of that team. First radio, and then later we moved to digital.
Okay, now there is so much in that story that I want to unpack, Marta. There's so much. Look, first of all, there you were in London, okay, your first time there, you were lonely, you said, and you didn't know what to do, you felt a bit down, but you said, okay, I have to do something. In other words, you're proactive, right? You knew where you wanted to be, and you actually did something. You picked up the phone and spoke to a complete stranger. That must have been quite a scary experience for you at that young age, talking to someone so established and saying, I want you to help me achieve my dream. So kind of the courage that you must have needed to demonstrate is another really important thing. So proactivity, courage, and being straightforward. Now, most people wouldn't do that. They'd say, oh my God, oh, woe is me. But we find, don't we, that as we go through life, the ones who move forward don't wait for things to to drop in their laps. They actually go out there and say, hey guys, I'm here, I'm looking for this, right? I want to do something. And you get disappointed. You get disappointed a lot, but you can't stop. And that's what you did. And that's what you...
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, what's the worst that can happen? The person says no, and okay, but then you still did what you wanted to do. And I think when in a situation when you don't know what to do, I think the most important thing is to every day make small steps. Every little step matters. If I don't know, some people have like bad moments in life. They feel like they don't know what to do, they don't know where to go, but choose one step for one day. Sometimes you are so exhausted that you can't do more than one step, but one step matters, because if you stay and don't do nothing will happen. So
yeah.
Always try.
No, finish. Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, one small step, and suddenly you look behind you, you're amazed at how far you've come, right? And you, as you say, you can be exhausted. And the temptation is, I'll do it. I'll take 2 steps tomorrow. And the problem is tomorrow doesn't come, and you lose that momentum. Whereas even if you do a little thing today, you go to bed, you think, wow, I did something, and it's more, motivational for continuing on that. Also, you said that the first thing you did was radio, and you'd never done radio before, so you took a chance, right? You did something new.
Yeah, and it took me time to learn, and it didn't come like on the second day. I needed to learn, but I was willing to learn, and I find in life and in my job as well, I think the biggest potential in somebody, when you hire somebody or somebody comes to you, is willing to learn. If the person is willing to learn, you can learn everything. Journalism is not something like I don't know, sacred some knowledge or something. It's a job like any other job. So you just learn the the basics. You
Yeah.
get the tools, and you just try to do it. That's what I did, and I just one thing that I can tell that throughout these years that I've been with BBC, every single day I woke up and I was happy that I'm doing this job. That one thing that really helps to carry on and to learn new things and to grow, because curiosity is the key thing to everything. When you are positive, when you are curious and you want to grow, that's
Right.
very, very important. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love that. Yeah, you want to know. You want to know what you don't know and what you need to know and what the new role is all about. And you don't allow novelty to stop you, which is again another hurdle that many people, often when I talk to a client of mine as a leadership coach, and they'll say, well, I want to be a senior manager. I want to be a director. But I don't know enough. I'm not experienced enough, and I've never managed a team before, and I'm too scared. And that fear stops them, it blocks them. And what I think when I hear that argument is each individual, and you just demonstrated that each individual has their own unique strengths, qualities, power. And by not allowing yourself to show those and to influence this environment around you, you're actually depriving the organization and people, of your expertise, of your speciality, of your uniqueness. And again, the way you kind of said, okay, yeah, I jumped in and I took a step, but the way you did it makes it sound so simple, but it's very difficult. And again, I come back to, well, it must have been tough for you to do that, especially on your own at such a young age in a strange country.
Yeah, and it's not always easy for me either. It's a story from my life that I tell, but it doesn't mean that I'm never in the position when I know what to do and I'm not scared. There are things that I'm really scared of, and this fear, it's always sits in us. But I think throughout the years, when I learned about myself more, I think this fear, it sits in us, and in some way it's really easy to fall into prejudice about not just about other people but about yourself. Oh, people tend to say, oh, it's not me, no, I can't do this. This is all your thoughts. This is not the reality. This is your prejudice about yourself. So one of the most important things, if you want to grow, you need to stop living through the lens of your prejudice about yourself. So I'll give you an example. Me as a Marta Shokalo individual, all my life, I hated yoga, really hated it, and running. It was the worst. If you ask me what is the worst things for you, it's yoga and running. So I lived all my life until 42, thinking that those two activities are no for me. But then one day I just thought, why not? I'll try. And I tried both of them, yoga and running. And now they are like a key to my actually well-being, key things to my well-being. But if I never tried, how would I know? So It's always better to try and to fail. So of course you can try something and you fail, you don't like it, it's just not yours, fine, but you've tried, and you know it from your own experience, rather than living in this imaginative world of your thoughts. Oh no, I don't like this, no, it's not me. You don't know what's you actually.
You're so right. I mean, while you were talking, I was kind of trying to relate that to the corporate environment generally. If someone wants to develop and become more and more senior over time, and they're in a toxic corporate environment. They say, well, I don't have a chance here because of whatever, the politics or the culture, what have you. But I'm not willing to take the leap and try going somewhere else because I have even less idea. Better the devil that you know than the devil that you don't. But unless you try, you will never know, right? So what
Exactly.
you know for sure is you're not happy here. You know that for sure, right?
Yeah.
You've got to do something.
I think not so long ago, one of my yoga teachers gave me really, really good advice. I mean, not even advice, it just was one phrase from her. Because I was also feeling stuck, what I'm doing. I also in this process at the moment of growth, and I want to know what's next for me and everything. So she said, Marta, no matter what you are doing, follow your joy. If you follow your joy, if you follow things that it makes you happy, that will bring you somewhere where you need to be. Because if you are unhappy and deep down inside you are unhappy, you will feel stuck. It's draining when you are unhappy inside you. It drains your energy. It drains your energy. So, and of course, for many people, it's really, again, it's fear. It's scary to move on, to make the step. But try small steps in any direction. Think of things that you like. And also, I think just important for every person, no matter what you do in life, remember your job, your work is just work. There is also other things in life. And it's very important just to keep yourself healthy mentally and physically, is to have a list of things that makes you very small. It can be very small things that make you happy. And when you feel down, when you feel upset, or it's not your day, look at that list of things that makes you happy, and do just one, and you will see it will just world all of a sudden just lights up, and you just say, oh, everything is not that bad.
Oh, I love it. A list of things that make you happy. What a great tip. And as you say, they don't have to be big, deep things. They can be one very simple thing, but if it makes you put a smile on your face, it changes your whole perspective of the day. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry. Okay, you were in London with the BBC doing radio, something you'd never done before. What happened then?
And then I moved back to Kiev, my home city, because I had at the time my boyfriend there. So I moved there basically for him, but I still wanted to be with BBC. So I managed to stay at the Kiev office. My then boss was really fond of me, and he said, I really want you to be the part of our team. But at the same time, Kiev office, they didn't have journalist vacancy. So I could only be like an office manager, assistant secretary. I said, and they said, that's the only option for now. I said, fine, I'll do that, no worries. So for some time in Kiev, I worked as an office assistant, but still I was already doing some radio programs. So I was doing my job, but at the same time I was preparing some pieces for radio. And then I worked and carry on. We had our first revolution at that time when I joined BBC in Kiev, so it was really busy time. So I grew very quickly into a proper correspondent. I was also working as a presenter, radio presenter, and bit by bit I just grow into senior editor, desk editor that was outputting programs and overlooking content produced by other people. And that was my way of growth.
Now, this is a question I ask everybody who has experience in different countries, who've gone through their leadership journey in different countries, and that is, how do you deal with different cultures wherever you happen to be? Because, you know, there are organizational cultures which are influenced by societal cultures and attitudes. And did you find it difficult making the shift from the UK to Ukraine in the way that you interacted with your colleagues, for example?
No, I don't think so, because well, I was in London, but I still joined Ukrainian team, so I worked with Ukrainians, and the same, when I moved to Kiev, I again worked with Ukrainians, but in Kiev. And I wouldn't say that the culture is massively different, UK culture and Ukraine culture. In fact, I find the overall BBC culture is very good and high standard when you compare it to other Ukrainian companies. I think the key things is respect at work, and it's something like so valuable, and I think that's something that you actually grow into this culture, and you learn how things needs to be done. And then when you have new joiners that comes into your in your team in Ukraine, very often I hear from people who join our team saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe like you operate like this. I can't believe you respect my right for my vacation. I can't believe you don't call me at night and asking to do the job." We don't do that. If you are off, you are off. If you are on leave, you are on leave. I don't know. It just your right, and it should be protected. So I think it's still I can feel the difference between the culture of, BBC culture and culture of other Ukrainian companies. And I think it makes me feel good that actually we managed to keep it, and we carry on working in this some sort of mixture. I would say it's a mixture of the best practices of Ukrainian culture and the best practices of English culture.
That's a great place to be. Now, I was thinking, so you've been in different roles, okay? And you had managers, you had bosses, you had leaders around you. What would you say in that period of time were the biggest lessons that you learned from your leaders around you?
I think the biggest lesson is, for me, was just no matter what you are doing and no matter at what position you are, just be kind. Just be kind to people. Just be a decent person. In the end, remember that no matter what you are doing, if you are a super big boss or you are just manager, in the end, we are just human beings. You and I'm Marta, you're Shim, you're a human being, you're a man, you're a good man, I'm a good... It doesn't matter at what position we are. And I think that I've learned this from many of my bosses. I was very lucky with my bosses, most of them. I wouldn't say with everyone, but in a way, I was very lucky. And I think particularly now in the last 4 years, when we've been going through this really dramatic period and very, very hard for us, I think one thing that actually saved me as a person was kindness from other people. That's nothing else gives you more energy and supports you more than kindness and empathy from people who are higher up.
Right. So now this, I love this as well, because a lot of leaders believe that the way to get the best out of their subordinates is through the stick approach and not the carrot and stick approach, or even just the carrot approach. But the reality is, you just described it, and certainly I've been through it, and so have many of my clients. When your leader trusts your opinion, respects your judgment, asks you to get involved in the conversation, all of a sudden it just changes your whole perspective of your role and the level of your motivation. Would you say that was a fair summary?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the strongest team are built on trust.
Right.
The strongest team are when the leader trusts people around him, when the leader listens to others, and actually remembers that you don't know everything. You as a leader, if you are a leader, it doesn't mean you know everything. And to be honest, if you knew everything, that would be a disaster, because that means your team is not very good. But your team is always consist of people who are better than you, and you need to listen to them and trust their opinion and give them freedom to make their own decision. It's not easy. I must say it's not easy, because most people who are ending up doing leadership roles, they are in some way control freaks. And I am control freak by nature. I used to be like crazy control freak. Now I'm much better, but I'm still have these traces. But letting go of control, have this sort of helicopter view when you are on top of everything, but you don't get into details. Micromanagement is the worst thing you can do. It just, people don't give their best when they are watched.
Yeah.
They give their best when they are trusted. And when you trust people, when you don't check on them every 5 minutes, what are you doing? Where are you going? Blah, blah, all this. It's people will do what you ask them, but just be kind to them.
Yeah.
You didn't need to beat them with something to make them work, because you will not get what you want with that approach.
And certainly not to the standards that you would like. Also, I find that, well, two things really, that very often leaders lead the way that they were led, right? And so if their boss was, one of these disciplinarians or whatever, then the next leader tends to do the same thing. The other is that leaders misunderstand what the expectation of their followers is, right? And they misunderstand that followers don't expect them to know everything, right? And understand that, followers say, well, hang on, look, I'm the specialist in, I don't know, IT, or I'm the specialist in marketing, whatever it is. And there's a leader going, well, this is what we're going to do with IT, and this is what we're going to do with marketing, and off you go and do it. And they'll say, well, hang on, maybe we should have had a conversation about this before, because I can, suggest stuff. But very often leaders do that because they feel exposed or vulnerable to their teams, right? If they do something like that. And they're scared of vulnerability. They believe that is not what leadership is, which in today's world, Marta, and I think you agree with me, in today's world, we need to recognize that nobody has all the answers. And that we do need to be open to sharing and crafting solutions.
We're all humans, and we all make mistakes, and showing your vulnerability is actually being a leader, and showing your vulnerability is actually make you stronger, not weaker.
No, absolutely.
It gives you freedom. It gives you shows people that you are like them in many ways. Of course you are. If you are a leader, you are doing something different. For me, leadership, when you think about leadership and what does leader do in the team? Leader brings the weather. It's such a great line I've heard from, I think it's from Mel Robbins. She's really great, inspirational woman. Mm-hmm. And that's what she said. And this is so true. You bring the weather, you creating the atmosphere in your team. You are not doing somebody's people task. Like, imagine yourself, you as a leader, imagine yourself as a gardener. You are a gardener, so you have a garden, you are responsible for this garden. You are helping trees, you are cutting trees, you are planting roses, you're helping them to grow, you weed, you are doing weeding and everything, but you can't grow for them. You can't. So your task is just to help those trees and roses and other flowers in your garden to grow. And then this is, and how the garden looks, this is your actually the result of your work.
Yeah, so providing the conditions for the flowers to grow. And
creating atmosphere and bring ideas, new ideas also. Leading by, I don't know, example. But it's real leader in the team. His voice or her voice is not the loudest one.
Right.
You don't need to be the loudest in the room to show that you are a leader. The leader would probably sit in the room and listen to others first.
No, definitely. I mean, leaders tend to speak less generally in a social context and listen more for precisely the reason. Again, while you were talking, I was thinking about the impact of creating this garden or the facilities for the roses to grow. The circumstances. I remember one organization where, when I went into my role, my team was used to being told what to do. And I remember my very first kind of team briefing. I said, look, exactly what we've been talking about. I don't know all the answers. You're the experts here. I'll be relying on you. And some of them, you could see their eyes light up, because they were excited, they were enthusiastic about the idea. They wanted to do that. Others felt, what? That's not. It's not his job. His job is to tell me what to do. And it won't surprise you, Marta, to learn that those that didn't like the idea left fairly shortly, and that's fine. It's not a problem. Everyone has their own preference when it comes to followership. But the ones that stayed, I mean, my goodness, they, as soon as they were given the freedom to say and suggest things and get involved, the solutions that they helped to create were fantastic. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, and people are always like that. You will always have people who will be those null sayers. They always disagree. They always don't like. They're always negative about things. Just let them be the way they are. Don't listen to them. And they would be unhappy with you. They would be criticizing you. Oh, you are a boss. You should do this. Nobody can tell you what you should do, actually.
Right.
You do what you think you should be doing, not listening to those people. But again, things are always done not by everyone, but you always have like a smaller team, that those people who, as you say, who have their whose eyes lights up when you talking about ideas and creativity and about what we can do, how we can do this, how we can do that. Right. So it's very important to have such people, because otherwise leadership role in a team that is always negative, and most of the team, is really, really tough. It's really hard, and it just makes you think you can't do everything by yourself. No, you just can't. You need to have a team. So of course you are a leader, but again, you don't know answers to all the questions. You really want to hear what other people think, because some people can have brilliant ideas you would never ever come up with. And that's how things, well, at least in creative industry I'm working, this creativity is the key thing that we need to do, and to grow, to thrive. It's to be creative. It's not always easy.
No doubt about it. And I think creativity, again, in today's environment, is necessary across any business. With AI kind of being able to do so much, we need to demonstrate human creativity to be able to add value where AI can't. And that doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter which. So again, what we're saying is that as leaders, we need to accept that not everyone is going to want to follow us in our way of doing that, and that's fine. But once we do get that group of people who do, then we form that inner circle, if I can call it that small group. And from there, the message, the culture, if you like, the way of working, then filters out. And that's what you experienced, you were saying, and learned from your leaders at the BBC. So then what happened? Well, how did you get from where you were to becoming editor-in-chief of BBC Ukraine? You're currently reaching 18 million people a week. I mean, that must be quite a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, and this growth actually came in the time of the biggest crisis for our team. So, which reminds me of one thing, that biggest growth comes in times of crisis.
Okay.
When you are on the edge of, survival sometimes, that's when the growth comes. It's a positive way of thinking about really darkest time in your life. That's how it was for me. So I became editor-in-chief in 2019. I was part of the team for many years, and that was not easy because all of a sudden you just in completely different role. People stop inviting you to like having a beer or going out. It's different and it's tough. It's really, really tough when you become a leader from inside the team, and you've been part of that team for many, many years, and all of a sudden they need to treat you as a boss, or I don't know. That was pretty tough. But for me, the leadership came with crisis. So as soon as I joined the team, so we had probably, I don't know, a couple of months of normal life, and then COVID broke out. And then I built the whole system of remote working from scratch. We didn't have anything. So I jumped straight into this crisis mode, dealing with crisis, organizing workflow, keeping people together online without seeing them. And that's how we actually work. We've been working for the last 5 years now. No more. No,
right.
6.
So that's something really that I want to delve into a little bit more, as to how you dealt with this enormous change in the way that your organization operated. But before I get to that, I want to talk about what you said. You went from being a member of the team to being, quote unquote, an outsider, simply because you were now leading the team and they stopped inviting you for beers. Talk me through that. But what was it like what was going on in your head? How were you engaging with them on a daily basis? Was it, hey, Fred, great to see you, as you'd always greeted Fred, or was there a subtle change?
I don't think I didn't change my style of communication. I am who I am, and I always been like who I am. I never try to pretend being somebody else. But what I find hard, one thing and one trap, the most dangerous trap, don't presume that everybody needs to like you. Don't depend on this opinion. It's really hard, actually, and particularly being a woman as well. You just want to be liked. You want people to be happy around you. You want to be people saying good things about you, but they won't. They won't say. They will probably gossip behind your back. They will tell, because it's natural. That's leadership role is sometimes can be very lonely. And you need time to adjust to this, because for me that was really hard, because I always feel myself included in I've been always sort of a leader of the groups of people, and at school, even back at school, I was really very good at organizing people. Oh guys, let's go and do this, let's go do that. So I was like that, but it didn't work when I became a boss. It didn't really, it was different. But then you must not depend on other people's views, you must not depend on their, I don't know, liking you, because you can't make people like you. You can just try to like yourself, and like what you are doing, and stick to your being yourself. I am who I am, and this is how I'm doing things. I'm being kind no matter what. But it was tough, and sometimes it's because our team is so close. I mean, we are spread around 3 countries now, but we're always online. We have many chats now, and it sometimes feels like a family. In dynamics in our team sometimes feels like a family, and we have sometimes arguments, and we can shout at each other, like very emotional sort of Ukrainian way of dealing with things. But you must always remember, so no matter how it feels like a family, it's not a family. It's your job, and it's job for anybody else in your team. So very, very important thing for me, and the biggest lesson I've learned, and it took me years. I'm not saying it was that easy. Oh, I came in this leadership role and I knew everything. No, it took me years and years to realize that the most important thing is to keep boundaries. It's healthy to keep boundaries. To keep you have your work, but you have your rest. You have your work, but you have your family. Work is not everything. You have your own life. The same for people. So you cannot expect from people being fully immersed in work. And this is actually, it's not very healthy, because we have some members of the team, because work became for them like a sense of life in a way, but it's not good. So you must make sure that people go on holidays, they rest, particularly in times like this, time of constant crisis that we've been living through. It's really, really important. The self-care is one of the key things that I've learned being a leader. If you don't care about yourself, you will never be able to care about others. It's like in the plane, when they ask you, you should put masks first on you and then on anybody else sitting next to you. Because if you are not fit, if you are not healthy, if you are dead, you can't help others. So self-care is absolutely crucial thing.
Very powerful messages, actually, a couple of them really. But yeah, let's start with that one. I heard a similar thing. If you might want to help other people, right? But you can't help anybody if you don't have anything to give them, right?
Yes.
And so first you have to look after yourself. And a lot of people think, oh, but that's such a selfish attitude. Well, actually, there's nothing wrong with being selfish, because unless you look after yourself, you cannot help anybody else, right? Yeah. So we need to shift our way of thinking. The other thing that struck me was that we're talking about when you became the leader of your team from within it, that there were some people that felt a bit uncomfortable about it, and it's okay to feel, for you as a leader to feel uncomfortable. It's not nice, but then, it's about having a thick skin, accepting that it's going to happen, and sticking with your values and your direction, where you're taking the organization and how you're going to continue leading your team. And I think, as you found out, you keep being yourself, and things settle down. The people that have liked you for who you are will continue to like you for who you are. And there's some who don't like you, but that's okay. It happens.
Yeah, and and very important is to show this vulnerability in the time of crisis, or like big conflict or anything. You don't come there as I said, because I'm the boss, I said so, and you do so. No. And if somebody sort of undermines your decisions, just talk to that person, have this difficult, it's really hard to have difficult conversation, you know. One of the biggest mistake that leaders make, in my own experience, they avoid to have difficult conversations. But remember, difficult conversation is the key thing to resolve the problem. Without having it, it just will never go. It will build up, build up, build up. It will grow, it will I don't know, boil inside, and it will never go. But there's nothing wrong if somebody hurts you, because people hurt you a lot. It's nothing wrong. Just come to that person and say, don't talk to me like that. Don't say things like that, because it hurt me. I'm a human being like you are. I treat you as a human being. So please treat me as a human being, because I am. I have feelings, and sometimes I had conversation when I cried because people were saying really not pleasant things to me, but just maybe somebody would say, oh, it's the wrong way, don't show your weakness. But it's I don't think it's a weakness. I think it's just showing your human side. It's not weakness. It's just, in some way, it's actually shows your strengths.
No, quite. And I think that sometimes, not always, not even often, but sometimes people can be hurtful without realizing they're being hurtful. And having that difficult conversation, you know, gets them to think, oh my goodness, no, I'm sorry, it's not what I wanted to do, it's not what I intended. And gets them to do some self-reflection about how they communicated what they felt. What the alternative options were, and so on. And so they then actually start to grow a little bit. But the other thing you talk about having difficult conversations is this. I think a lot of people are scared of difficult conversations because, well, there are a number of reasons. Number one, they don't want to upset the other person. Right now, you know, so are they going to, you know, get upset if I say that I didn't like whatever? Well, it's possible, but it depends on how you say it. If you say it in a constructive way, then people won't necessarily get upset. And also, it depends on how you frame it. Yeah, is this something that I need to help this person grow on? I've certainly had experiences where somebody's come to me and said, you know, so-and-so has upset me. And I said, well, why don't you go and speak to that person and say, hey, you know, this is what you said this, and it made me feel like that. And this guy said, well, oh my God, I didn't mean to do that. I apologize. And they move on, right? And I think as leaders, we need to be sensitive to those nuances. Some people will do it just because they want to hurt you. Other people will do it without knowing at all. And
absolutely. You know. And one thing that helped me to shift my perspective of difficult conversation, because, oh God, I was so scared of them. As every human being, it's an instinct. You don't want to say unpleasant things to people. But one thing that shifted my mind is realizing that actually you are doing difficult conversations not for others, you are doing it for yourself. You are relieving yourself from this tension that builds up in you. You are releasing this tension. Just take weight off your shoulders. That's what difficult conversation does. And having difficult conversation from the point of a human being also is very helpful. You don't come there and shout at somebody. First, you ask person, the difficult person. And I had these examples in my career. You have this some people are just impossible, and you are scared. Actually, you are leader, but you are scared to go and talk to them because they are just like, oh my God. But one thing that helps is actually break the ice. Just ask person, how are you? What's going on? And 99%, I can guarantee that person can tell you that something is going on in her personal life. Maybe some, I don't know, argument with the husband, or something with their children, or with their parents, or they just under stress from needing to do some work. And you don't know this because you don't talk about that at work. right? You don't bring your problems at work usually, and that's very good thing to do. But when you ask person, you all of a sudden you just understand everything. Oh my God, now I understand why he or she was behaving like this, because she's under massive pressure. And I remember I was preparing for a very difficult conversation with a very difficult person. And we ended up this conversation hugging each other and actually having a tear, because it was just a conversation of two women.
Right.
As simple as that.
On the emotional
not the boss.
level.
Yeah, not the boss and member of the team, but as two human beings. Again, coming back to my point that I mentioned before. In the end, we are all just humans and personalities. That's it. That's one thing that matters, really.
Yeah, I think that's so fundamental. When you say it, people say, well, that's obvious. Well, they might say it's obvious, but actually treating other people in that way is not so common. It's not easily done, because there are all these other parameters that we bring into play, like my position, my role, and what will they think of me, and what are the expectations of me as a leader, etc., etc. But actually, you lose sight of the fact that you're still people. The other thing is that, about how we don't know what's going on in that person's life. It's one of, it's something I feel very, very strongly about, and that is that what's happening in your work life is going to influence your personal life, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And you can't just put one in a box and open up the other box and go in there and forget about, so there is an overlap. And that's why whenever I'm working with a coaching client, I always, talk about the two of them. We might be starting about, in the business environment, but I always talk about the personal environment as well. And it's so often the case, as you just described, Marta, that what's happening in one is going to influence behavior in another, and people around that person, so whether it's your family or whether it's your work colleagues, don't understand why. And so if you give that person a chance to share that, look, I'm having a problem with, I don't know, my partner, my children, my colleague, whatever. All of a sudden they open up and they feel it's okay, it's okay that someone is really listening to me, and suddenly their barriers, their defenses go down.
Yeah.
And you can engage with them again. The other thing that I thought about was communication, and what a powerful tool that is, a necessary tool for any kind of leadership conversation. What would you say to someone, because most of us think we're great communicators, right? Right? But we're not. Okay.
Yeah.
So what have you learned about how to communicate with others? I mean, of course, you're in media, so you've got that aspect, but you personally as a leader as well.
One thing, don't assume people know. People don't know unless you repeat a couple of times. I mean, unless you tell them and you think, oh, well, it's sort of obvious. It's not obvious. Like sometimes very simple things are not obvious at all. Although when we say them loud, we say, oh, that's obvious, but it's not obvious. The fact is, you need to, it takes you, I would say from my own experience, when you implement some changes, for example, you need to change the course of your direction, or you need to change the way you do things, like with the planning meetings sometimes, or with the products that you do and everything. It takes time to repeat this thing several times, or maybe 10 times, until people sort of absorb it. Not understand, they do understand from the very first time, but it just takes time for them to absorb this situation. And sometimes you tend to be angry. Oh my God, how many times do I need to tell this? Honestly, I'm not like answering machine. I can't do that. But that's your job. That's how it works. Unfortunately, that's the reality. You need to communicate things, and don't presume that people know this, or don't presume that people know how you feel. They don't know how you feel unless you tell them. That's why it's so important to have this difficult conversation, because that's the only chance you can actually share how you feel. And it's always like communication is the key thing to everything in life, I think. In relationship, with your partner, with your child, with your parents, with your friends, with anybody. If we don't communicate, then there is no way we can understand each other. If we don't communicate, then the resentment growing inside us, we are becoming more unhappy, we are becoming more and more angry without saying it loud. It's a key thing. And all the problems, I always say this, and it sounds very simple and banal in some way, all problems come from miscommunication. All problems.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely right, because the other thing is that we think, as you started saying, we think we've communicated something, and then we walk away and say, okay, fine, I've told them. But actually, what we thought we had said isn't what they actually heard or what it meant to them, and it's really important that we recognize that. And that's why, we need to think about communication skills, and leaders need to be particularly good with that, I would suggest. And of course, that comes with experience, but also, with structured, if you like, disciplined activities that improve it. So, unfortunately, the clock is beating us. I mean, I could talk to you for hours. In fact, I have lots more to talk about, Marta. But we've talked a lot about leadership, but there's something that you're doing that's slightly kind of off-center from leadership, and that is you're head of the jury of the BBC Book of the Year. Now, tell us about that. What is it, and how did you become head of jury?
It's a BBC Book Award that we actually started 20 years ago. It's quite a long time ago, and we've been running since then. And in a way, it's one of the most influential book prizes in Ukraine. It's about Ukrainian literature written in Ukrainian. So we have 3 categories: fiction, non-fiction, and children's book. And it's kind of this sort of side project that we have as a team, which is great because it's something away from news, but it's something that brings us together. And we read books and we discuss them. We just organize this big event every year in December to announce the winners. And I, as the head of the jury, so basically I work as an administrator, so organize the whole process, how we do this, how we do that. We have other 4 members of the jury, but the fact is I need to read around 40 books in 2-3 months.
Wow. Oh my God.
That's my part of. Yeah, it's part of my. Well, I got used to it, and I'm very fast reader. Over the years, I've learned how to read very fast, so I can easily read 3 books a day. That's sort of norm for me. But it's quite hard, I must say, particularly in the last couple of years, because the literature is the reflection of society, and our society in Ukraine is living in war. So most books, as you can imagine, are about war, but also about children traumas, because people now, in the last years, start working with therapists, because even 10 years ago, it was something like people didn't do, like, oh, no, that's so bad. I think it comes from that Soviet times where you don't talk to other people about your problems. You can only talk about that with maybe family members. So that's why many people are now trying to dealing with that trauma of war. But then when you're dealing with one trauma, the other traumas comes up. So that many books in our literature now are about our childhood, about relationship with parents and everything. And I must say it's very similar for me, because as I'm trying to keep myself healthy mentally as well, I work with a therapist, and it comes, the intention was to somehow talk about war and experience living through war, but actually it comes up so many personal stuff in that process. So it's similar for other people. So I find it quite hard now, because all the literature that we read is pretty grim.
Grim. And so, yeah, you say you find it hard. Tell me more about that, because are you absorbing that darkness, if you like, that you're reading? Is that what you find hard? Is it hard reading stuff about, terrible things that have happened to others? What specifically do you find hard, Marta?
Yeah, you are. When you read, you absorb all this mood, not just information, but the mood of the book. And when it's very dark, it's really hard. So I really try to balance this. We have so much negative in our lives right now. We have so much sadness and grief and death. We're dealing with that every day. Like, we're writing news, we're hearing stories from our families and friends. People in Ukraine are living through horrendous time right now, in the cold, without heating, without electricity. All this grim and darkness that surrounds you. So for me, the most important thing, and maybe it will help some other people that are going through this really hard, dark times in their lives, because we all do. At some point, we all go through this really dark moments. One thing, that the most important thing, is just to keep your light inside you. No matter how, it's a hard job sometimes. It's really hard job to wake up every morning and smile. Just keep that smile. And sometimes it's the hardest thing probably you can do. Smile, because there are no reason for a smile, you would say to yourself. Why would I smile whilst all these horrible things are happening? But you can smile because the sun is out, because the sky is blue, because you can see that, and you can walk, and you can still have your legs and your arms, and you can still have your cup of tea or cup of coffee. Just all those small things just keeps you going. And no matter how the words sort of persuade us that everything is grim, is so depressing, and many people say now, oh my God, news are now so depressing. They are. But to be able to live through this, you just need to keep this positive light. I don't know how to say, positive light inside you, and just try as much as you can. Sometimes it's super hard to bring this light to others as well. Smile. Just smile.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful advice. Be grateful for what you have. We live in a society where we take so much for granted. And we don't realize, my goodness, until we see what's happening in Ukraine, for example, and what people are going through there, and we think, wow, I have a warm place. I have a roof over my head. I'm not terrified of, any kind of attacks and so on. And it's at times like that, I think, and I hope, that we look and be grateful for, for what we have. But I think it's a great message to end with, Marta. Now, we've talked about so many things in this time, but if you were to kind of try and summarize or crystallize the key messages that you would have for someone on their leadership journey, what would you say they were?
So whilst preparing for this interview, I actually put the list of 3 things, key things, for being a good leader. First one, and the most important, is empathy and kindness. That comes first. Second one is trust, and trust is about freedom, giving people freedom as we talk it through, and really important, trust. Remember, trust will make your life easier, much easier. And the third one, very important, is self-care. Care about yourself. Don't think it's selfish. Never think it's selfish. The love starts from your love to yourself. And that's what many people don't really understand, and that makes them unhappy. But self-care and love is the most important, because remember, in the end of the day, the most important person in this life for you is you, nobody else.
Yeah, absolutely. So wonderful. I mean, I love your list. So trust, self-care, and kindness. I think that, especially for a leader, I think that these are important. They're important for everybody, of course, but especially for a leader. And you know, let's not get trapped in the the stereotypical framework of what a leader is all about. Well, Marta, when I first saw you at the TV studio, I thought, well, this lady has a lot to share, and I was very right. I'm delighted to say, and I'm so happy that you found the time to join me, and we had the chance to talk like this. So thank you for that. Very, very valuable lessons, and I think what a journey you've had, and what struck me most was how much you've absorbed along that journey. So many of us walk around, we experience things, but we don't absorb them, we don't embed them, we don't examine them, we don't learn from them. But you clearly have, and I think that's a very valuable thing that you've done. So thank you again. I'm sure a lot of people will benefit greatly from listening to what you have to say, Marta.
Thank you, Hashem, and thank you for inviting me. And again, thank you for this very open and honest conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you. I really hope it will help somebody. And if somebody from after listening to this interview would like to reach out, please do. I'd be. It will be a pleasure to talk to you or to share some things.
That's very generous. How will they find you, on LinkedIn or?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the easiest way to find me. I'm actually on every social media, but LinkedIn is my sort of work platform. So
reach out to Marta on LinkedIn if you'd like to continue your conversation with her. And I wouldn't blame you if you did. Thank you again, Marta.
Bye. Okay, bye.